So I don't prepare for any interview.
Yes.
It's the same day, same week before
Yeah.
any kind of interview. I kind of
Sometimes the interview goes moderate. It's like it's not a clear cut yes or a clear cut no. Candidate also know this I have cleared. This I definitely haven't cleared. Sometimes candidate is also unsure how it went. Interviewer also in that mindset. So in such scenarios, how a candidate can favor himself, like how he can template. I had one architect long back who has only one question. He'll ask same question to everyone who comes to his in system design. Only one question he asks. Luckily, if you solve that, you are through.
there are very few companies that are really actually looking for your DSA, and especially on top of them is Google. They would want you to write some DSA answers in their Google Sheets.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I would say they're not at a very high level. They're
Welcome back to Uncommon Geeks. Myself, Asant. I hope you all doing well. In case if you're seeing me first time on the internet, I'm a content creator. I help people to clear their interview. I made a lot of beautiful series in the past, which has been appreciated by many. Link to the series will be somewhere on the screen, also in the description section. And without wasting further time, let's get started with content of the video. Today, I'll be interviewing a very interesting personality. His name is Rajan Gulati. Basically, he's an engineer at Uber, and he has an immense experience in giving and taking the interviews, and very vibrant personality. Before taking the interview, I talked to him personally, and I feel very positive when I spoke to him. Basically, we'll be summarizing his 7-year career, where we'll be discussing about a lot of things like what is the right interview preparation strategy, how much DSA to prepare, and whenever an interview goes moderate, like not so positive and not so negative, how to make it in favor of the candidate. And considering current difficult situation where a lot of companies are laying off, what should be your mindset, how to handle situation like this. We are going to discuss about all of this very much in detail. So if you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and press the bell icon so that a lot more such content will be coming in the channel. So stay tuned for the video. Srijan, I've already given your introduction in my own words. And very first of all, thank you so much for accepting my invite and coming live on Uncommon Geeks. Welcome to Uncommon Geeks.
Hey, thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah, sure. So, Srijan, basically, as I said, I have given introduction in my own words. It's good if you give your introduction, your words, your skill
Oh,
sets, basically where you're from, so that my audience would relate to more. Then we can start with the actual content. Yeah.
for sure, definitely. So I'm Srijan Gulati. I have been a front-end developer at 7+ years, and I massively enjoy writing articles, teaching JavaScript,
Yes.
taking interviews and giving interviews. And I'm
Yes.
originally from Delhi, but right now I'm well settled in Bangalore.
Yes, yes, great. Basically, the one of the way how I got to know about you is also by reading in Medium. I was reading your Apple interview experience. Maybe we can discuss somewhere in the middle of the video. And because of that, how I got to know. Many of my contacts in LinkedIn have connected because of either I've seen their video or I've read their blogs. Writing blog basically is not that very common thing because takes its own time to write everything. Making videos comparatively easy. Correct? Yes. Okay.
No,
Yeah. Yes, please, Surgeon. You're saying something.
I think making videos would be harder, right, than writing articles.
Making videos too is little harder, like probably keeping camera, lighting, and editing, creating a thumbnail, and promoting it. It is like a full-time job if you are doing. I mean, or at least how I feel. Don't start it the way of making money. Have a bigger cause, then probably you'll do it for a longer time. Writing article on the other hand, you want to make sure people understand in the with the words. Like when we're talking now, we have more aids like expressions. We have somewhere we can give the hand movements, or I can keep something on in the background and look at it and tell. But so that I don't have to practice. It's more like acting whenever you are doing very proper recording. That is the only thing. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So let us start, Sajan, with the first question that I wanted to ask. As I always read in LinkedIn and other places, there is a huge push towards the full stack development now, and this trend was not so common 3 to 4 years back. Not that full stack developers were not there; they were always there, but the trend pushing, especially the youngsters, to become full stack developers is becoming huge. The college pass outs, everyone are telling, take our course and become a full stack developer in 4 months, 5 months. Correct. I personally
Hmm.
not of very in favor of that, but I wanted to give your take your opinion. What do you think is full stack development is the right choice, especially from the fresher and junior developer, like just starting the industry or less than a year experience?
So I would say if you're just starting in
Yeah.
the industry of software development, you should stick to one thing and try to learn it really well. learn the basics, then jump into projects, because being good at one thing is going to give you a lot more value than being mediocre at a bunch of
Correct.
things, right? When you try and learn multiple different stacks, let's say Java, JavaScript or
Yes.
Python, there's going to be a lot of context switch early on
Yes.
in your career, which is just going to
Yes.
confuse you a lot more.
Correct.
But as you go longer and longer in your career, try and shift from a single stack developer or a JavaScript developer to a problem solver. So
Correct.
just think of things as problems and then solve it. See, at the end of the day, any language is just zeros and ones. So
Correct.
be a problem solver in the longer term.
Yeah.
But if you're just starting, I would say the best way you can increase your value and you can be a better developer and you can be of much more, you can shine in the industry, is to be really good at one thing.
Correct. Correct. The same thing. Basically, I also had similar opinion because whenever 8 to 10 or 11 years, when people generally become architects, we don't respect somebody just because they're architect. People will start bluffing in the back when somebody becomes a architect and they don't have a take. Like basically, people go look architect where whatever he says should be final. So there shouldn't be any further arguments, etc. So, but when you yourself don't have a strong opinion on anything, again you that whenever you seek his opinion, it becomes again a discussion. Like you said, have a mastery at least on one proper, then probably you can turn towards the problem solving. I also in the same favor, Srijan. Let's go to the next question. Okay, so now again, this is the another common trend that has happened, especially from the product companies, where a lot of youngsters are very enthusiastic to join the product companies. Where that is also fine. People are not so interested nowadays to join service company only. They're thinking product company somewhere superior compared to the service companies. So my question is basically, whenever somebody gets a premium company offer, you have got multiple premium company offer. So my suggestion is, what should be the strategy? Just because a premium company gives an offer, you accept it, or you have to do certain aspects on that. That is question number one. You can talk a little bit about the service company and product company disparity that is there in the people's mind.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I've sort of mostly worked for product companies. I haven't
Yeah,
worked with a lot of service companies, but I have had people from service
correct,
companies working with me. Firstly, how I decide whether a company is right for me or not is by doing my own set of values,
correct.
understanding what are my top six values that I want to follow,
Yeah,
and would the team, specifically not the company, that's very
yeah,
important, would the
yes,
team that I'm going to be joining in, are they also aligned with the values? Do I add to those values, or are there certain values which are conflicting with the ones that I have? And that's very
correct,
important to do your own retrospect, understand your values, and understand if the team is matching those values. So
correct.
there, it doesn't matter for me if it's a service company or a product company. But as a disparity between the people I've seen from service industry and the people I've seen from product industry, the fire in the people from product industry is just a lot more
Correct.
stronger. I would say it's a lot more brighter. They do stuff at an incredibly sharper pace, and they're much faster, much more optimized as compared to service companies. And that's just from a small experience that I have.
Correct.
It that absolutely might not be the case, right?
Correct.
Service company might be the best company for your growth
Yeah.
in the exact position you're at, or a product company might be the best place for you to grow and learn. I would say the best bet you can get is to have a really solid team and a really solid mentor and a manager which who can really take you to places. So I've been more lucky with my managers and my mentors
Correct.
rather than with the companies I've worked for.
Got it. So yeah, just to add on to the same question, like let's say now you have an offer from a premium company like Amazon, Adobe, very premium company, and many just accept the offer. But I have seen people who go there, especially the freshers and the juniors, and after 1 to 2 years, they realize they could have been in some startups and they would have been doing a great work. Correct. So whenever you get an offer from a very premium company where your friend is joining, let's take it that way, where you also want to go, and what should be your state of mind? Just because your friend joins or packages, are you go, or as a fresher because they
Hmm.
may not have a lot of values, like whatever you mentioned. Correct.
Yeah, see, as a fresher, even I just joined whatever I got. Right?
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
got placed during my college days, and I just joined. Right, I
Yeah.
didn't really second guess it.
Yeah.
And for the first 2 years, I was like, "What am I
Exactly.
doing with my life?" Right,
Yeah.
I'm completely lost. And is this something I really want to do?
Got it.
And then I became passionate and I started joining the companies
Exactly.
which really gave me the growth.
Exactly.
So it's very, very important to be at a company where, they value what you do,
Got it.
right? You
Yes.
can get a job offer from a lot of places, but for a company that really, really values what you're doing,
Yeah.
is just going to make your work a lot more pleasurable. And if work becomes pleasure, you would
Exactly.
feel like your days, your weeks, your months will just fly by.
Exactly. I second that. So one of the questions, since a lot of my audience are juniors and mid-range engineers, like you said, that's Kalpa, if you have values, which you think that whether the team that you're joining has a similar set of values, so that you can relate to. I don't ask all, but couple of your values, so that many may not have such kind of strategy. So at least they can strategize and see what are their values that they want to see in the team that would help them.
So there is a process that I follow, which
Yeah.
is kind of like there would be around 60, 70 different verbs on
Yeah.
this on a notepad, and I would read every single one and see which one reflects the most with me. So
Good.
for me, the topmost ones are learning. I like to learn something new every day. So I read my books, learn something in the work I do, maybe it be JavaScript, CSS,
Yeah.
anything related to uh, then it's obviously having fun.
Yeah.
So I really like enjoying myself. I go play my tennis. I go do my gymming, and I go do my parties at my
Yeah.
time. So I really want to be able to enjoy myself, have the time just for me.
Yeah.
Then there are these specific things that you don't want to compromise on, right? Those sort of become your values. So
Yeah.
if you want to have like a very, very strict work life balance, so it becomes very high up
Correct.
on your to
Correct.
okay, I want to spend this much amount of hours with my family, or I want to spend this much amount of time on myself, and
Yeah.
this is very, very important to me. So that there are companies where these are highly valued, there are companies which there are not so highly valued, and then you have
Correct.
to understand where these are valued, where these are not valued, and which would be a right fit for yourself. So I have like top 6 of
Yeah.
these, but
Yeah.
they keep changing with time, so you have to redo them every 3 to 6 months
Got it.
on, because the most constant thing is change.
Correct.
You change, companies change, everything change, so you have to understand yourself on what you're
Definitely.
doing,
Yes.
and then how everything is.
True, true, true. Probably just to add on, probably when you started your career, time may not be a big constraint where you will be ready to spend more time to learn. But gradually, when the family, those things become a little more important, where you want to dedicate some amount of time for yourself and the family. So, like you said, it keeps changing the verbs, whatever is meant for you. But whatever is important for Sujan may not be important for my audience. Like you find out what are your values that is very important. Because I've seen people who, if they're not working too much, they won't feel happy. They are like they want to work extra. So that's also you figure out your values and make sure the team is having those values so that you can get a match. Okay. So the next question is a $1 million question where I keep getting this question is how much DSA to prepare? Like definitely you have been interviewed at a lot of premium companies. Being a front end developer, people have a little bit of stereotype like I probably never use certain data structures. Should I really need to prepare for the interview? But my question is not from the work perspective, just from the interview preparation. How much DSA you have prepared whenever you are attending the interviews for the different companies?
Okay, so is it specific to DSA for front end developers? Is that
Yes,
where we
yeah,
are
that way I'm
going into?
asking. So that
Okay.
let's say somebody just a front-end developer with React and Angular, they
Hmm.
want to appear for like Google, Microsoft interviews. Few you have
Okay.
already attended. What? How much? Let them prepare.
For sure. So for a lot of these companies, like you'd say Nvidia,
Yeah,
Cisco, the interviews I've taken for a lot of companies, a lot of
yeah,
startups and all, especially for front end interviews. I personally care about how good are your basics in terms of
yeah,
JavaScript, and then if we go deeper into a particular language, we probably give you
yeah,
a 1 hour project, live project, to do in React or Angular or native
yeah,
JavaScript. There are very, very few companies that are really actually looking for your DSA, and especially on top of them is Google.
yeah,
They would want you to write some DSA answers in their Google Sheets.
yeah,
And yeah, I mean, I would say they're not at a very, very high level. They're not going to ask you to reverse a
right, directly.
graph or a tree and stuff like that. But they would really ask you basic questions, and that's where you need to really transition yourself and be like, I can write all of these questions in JavaScript as long as I understand the question,
Correct.
and practice a little bit of, I would say, just a little bit of easy to medium questions on lead code.
Yeah.
That would be way more than enough that any company can gonna ask you if you're a front end developer and you are interviewing for a front end role. It's I think it's for certain companies, as an interviewer, it shows value that you don't give up on a
Yeah.
question. You are able to understand it and you are able to answer it, even something that you have never seen before.
Exactly.
uh, it's not going to be very difficult,
Yeah.
but I would say just practice a little bit.
Got
Don't do it a lot. Spend
it.
some
Yeah.
time,
Definitely.
because it's a lot more valuable, because as a company, if I'm hiring somebody and I know they're not going to give up when something new arrives
Got
on
it.
their plate,
Yeah.
it adds a lot of value.
Got it. So specifically, would like to highlight on any DSA, like should we prepare trees, graphs like that, etc., or you just categorize them easy to medium problems, whatever possible you can solve.
I would say easy to medium would be the best bet there, right? You don't have to be massively versed
Yeah.
with, uh, I would say, all the data structures, but you should be able to find a decent solution for everything. I wouldn't say brute force.
Yeah.
You should be at the brute force level. I'm not saying you should be at the best,
Yeah.
but if you're somewhere in between,
Yeah.
closer to the best side, that's always better. And obviously, it you should be knowing these basic things like graph, a tree,
Yes.
hash, heap. All
Yeah.
these things are done during our college. It's always good
Yes.
to brush up on these.
Got it. So don't miss any data structure if you're preparing for very premium companies. At least solve couple of questions in each. Then focus more on probably the easy and medium questions so that you a chance of clearing is high. I also follow similar strategy because you know some strategies that might work for a totally strange question like two-pointer approach or certain things which you might have not really expecting in that problem, or you may not know the problem, but you can at least try writing. Correct. And
Yeah, I
probably,
would.
yeah,
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
so at least you can solve somehow or the other, like ultimately so like you said, interviewer can feel he's a hustler. He's not somebody who give up, though the complexity might be little high. You can try optimizing, but at least solution to aa raha hai. Like at least that part
Yes.
they'll be
Yes.
happy. Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, like I would say you learn it enough that you reach a place that you could come up with a solution rather than
Exactly.
remembering, oh, this is done this way, this is done that
Exactly.
way.
Yes.
Think of it like, it should train you how to think
Yes.
rather than train you how to answer.
Correct, 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 Sajjan. Okay, so let's go to the next question, Sajjan. This is one of with our initial phone calls. Also, I was very much interested. Like my audience would also like it. What is your typical interview preparation strategy, Sajjan? This is one of the unique strategy that I've not seen in the past. So, can you please talk on that? Sorry to disturb you in middle. I know you'll be enjoying the video. Definitely, we're going to talk about lot more interesting aspects in continuation of this video. But in case if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel, add a comment whatever you're feeling, and press the bell icon and like the video. The reason for this, getting someone like Srijan on the video takes a lot of effort, lot of to and fro, talking to them, etc. At least for my effort, it will be very beneficial if you like and comment about the video. And also, I have a noble clause of helping a lot of people to clear their interview. With more likes and comments, the video appears to a lot of people, and I can reach my goal quite quickly. So please like, share, like, and comment at least before continue watching further.
Okay, so I don't prepare for any interview.
Yes.
It's the same day, same week before
Yeah.
any kind of interview. I kind of just keep giving interviews
Correct.
and I keep taking interviews. So I kind of have that practice
Yeah.
of being in that zone again and again, and then solving new questions again and again. And that's something really helps me to be on top of my game and to also understand what's happening in the industry at the moment and what the industry is looking for. So yeah, I mean, whenever I'm really looking out, I would start just giving interviews again and again, and I would go retrospect what I did wrong. And if there is a question I couldn't answer, I would go research about it, try and take more time to solve it, and then just make myself better and understand how the industry is going, rather than sitting and preparing for interviews. And
Yes.
I think that kind of becomes a strategy after you've spent a bunch of years and
Yeah.
then you have a little bit experience in terms of taking and giving interviews.
Got it. So your strategy is like constantly prepare. Not that the time when you really want to switch, that time you start the preparation. That may not be fully favorable. Like you never know how when recruiters approach you, and suddenly at that 1 week or a 10 days, sometimes interviewer gives that much time, sometimes they may not. Because I've seen Microsoft drives happening just like that. Like there are only just 2 days, and they will call you. You cannot miss it because sometimes you may not get a call again. Even if you are in premium company, you may not get the call very often. So if always being prepared is the good strategy, correct? So that when dream companies approach you, yeah, you can at least give the interview and chances of clearing will be high. Correct?
And yeah, if you have like a good set of interviews that you give,
Yeah.
eh, see, nothing would teach you more than practice,
Correct.
right? No matter
Correct.
how much you prepare, you would have that nerve while you're
Yeah.
giving interview. But if you once you give it enough number of times, you would start just enjoying it, and
Correct.
it'll just be like
Yeah.
it'll be like a fun thing, right?
Yeah.
So you'll shine much more than any other candidate.
Because sometimes I've seen the panel getting reversed. Like will interviewer will see what to ask. I have attended such interviews where after you attend 10, 12 interviews in a series of whenever you're changing the company, you become well versed with all the common problems. And
Yeah,
interviewer also sometimes will not come without preparation, right? They'll see what all questions, JavaScript popular interview questions, they read that and come. And they would have lack of problems to ask in the interview. Because I have seen certain interview which he planned for an hour. I mean, not all. Some interviews of mine where I could finish in half an hour because I knew all the answers. That might also happen with constant preparations. Correct?
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be good to be honest
Exactly.
that I already know this question.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, Rather than, because the interview would very quickly catch on that
True.
you have
True.
done this before.
With the speed in the typing itself will tell whether you have solved the problem in the past or not. But sometimes it so happens interviewer himself will not know more problems, him or herself.
Uh,
I have seen that also. They only have fixed set of template. I had one architect long back who has only one question. He'll ask same question to everyone who comes to his in system design. Only one question he asks. Luckily, if you solve that, you are through. Like generally,
yes.
he is the last round of interview. That might also happen. But on that note only I want to ask this question. So many comes to interview without proper preparation. Let's say I give you one problem in lead code. I know the problem. For example, some problem this is related to finding some substring, inner string, etc. I don't know the answer. Okay, I just come and I gave you. You wrote a solution, then simply discuss. So that strategy may not help. Like where you don't prepare and come. So when you go for taking interview, also you prepare the question properly and go, or how is it? Srijan?
When I'm taking an interview,
Yeah.
so say it depends. I've worked separately with a bunch of
Yeah.
companies just to help them with interviews,
Yeah.
and I've interviewed for the companies that I've worked for
Correct.
personally. So it depends. A lot of bigger companies,
Yeah.
they have their pool of interview questions,
Correct.
right? So
Correct.
depending upon the type of
Correct.
round it is, they have like a pool in which they want to
Correct.
interview.
Correct.
Certain big companies which just take interviews also follow the same approach. So they
Correct.
have a pool of questions. Okay,
Yeah.
I have to take a, let's say I've taken back-end interviews as well. So
Correct.
they have certain set of back-end interviews for that type of round, and I have to ask from one of those
Yeah.
itself. And then there are certain little bit open-ended, like
Yeah.
JavaScript open-ended, front-end open-ended, React open-ended, React Native open-ended,
Yeah.
Node open-ended. So that's where I have a lot of freedom, and
Yeah.
I personally go with hardcore basics
Got it.
and one problem.
Yeah.
But I think basics are really really important. That's why
Yeah.
I love and I enjoy asking them,
Correct.
because basics is your fundamentals, right?
Correct.
If your roots are solid,
Definitely.
no matter if it's Node, if it's React, it's React Native, it's Angular, it's Vue, you're
Yeah.
going to shine eventually.
Exactly. Exactly. Sure. But this question I asked you over the phone as well. See, giving interview is not an enjoyable experience, at least to many. So where it is a taxing. 1 hour of interview, 1 hour, 1 man hour in the interview is equal to probably 3 to 4 normal hours. Like that's a 1 hour of very intense in whenever you are giving the interview. So you need certain motivations to go and give interviews very oftenly. Like personally, I don't do. Don't follow this strategy. Maybe I'll think on it. So what keeps you motivated, Sajan? Like just to prepare and give interviews quite often.
What keeps me motivated? So I've met some really really good interviewers,
Got it.
uh, and they have taught me a lot of things just in that 1 hour.
Got
They've
it.
added a lot more value
Yeah.
in that 1 hour. I've met bad interviewers
Yeah.
also. I've had interviews which have been extremely taxing.
Yes.
But those really, really good interviewers and those questions that I got to ask, which
Yeah.
were sort of like giving a eureka kind of moment,
Yeah.
have been a lot more pleasurable than compared to the other taxing effect for me, right?
Got it.
I've had interviews in which we had a call after I
Yeah.
got rejected
Yeah.
just to retrospect what exactly went wrong. Because
Got it.
I had such a nice conversation with the interviewer.
Yeah.
The interviewer was like, let me have like an entire meeting and sit
Got
and
it.
explain why we're rejecting you. So
Absolutely.
those were really, really valuable. And
Yeah.
those lessons have helped me get a lot more offers
Yeah.
in terms. So don't look at it as taxing.
Got it.
Uh, the whole point is look at it as the value that you get to gain from it.
Definitely. So yeah, since you have taken so many interviews and given so many interviews, Sujan, this is the my question. Sometimes the interview goes moderate. It's like it's not a clear cut yes or a clear cut no. Candidate also no. This I have cleared. This I am definitely haven't cleared. Sometimes candidate is also unsure how it went. Interviewer also been in that mindset. So in such scenarios, how a candidate can favor himself, like how he can turn the table to himself so that interviewer might be in favor of it. What some unique skill set that he can have other than the technical skills, so that would help favor the candidate in moderate interviews.
See, most this happens quite a lot,
Correct.
right? There, we as interviewers would be really, really happy
Yeah.
if it's a clear cut yes,
Yeah.
or if there are certain things which there are clear cut no. And the
Correct.
most taxing part is when it's in between, right?
Correct.
And we want to push to yes,
Yes.
right? Because
Definitely.
we know, we as I as interviewer know that not every day might be your best day.
Correct.
Not every day would be typically killing it or typically at the top of your game. So
Correct.
we want to give you yes and give you the benefit of the doubt.
Correct.
But that one really crucial skill that comes into play in pitches like this is how good is your communication? How
Got it.
good were you able to communicate? And I would say, ki, if I communicated something to you, how good were you able to get it? If you communicated something to me, how good I was able to understand it. So it's a two-way path,
Got it.
right? And the candidate with really solid communications and really solid values that they hold for themselves would definitely be more inclined towards, I would say, a soft yes than a soft no.
Got it.
So
Got it.
if you want to prepare for one particular skill that can give you the most amount of value, uh, work on your communication skills.
Got it. Got it. So good that you said, like, always the interviewer mindset. At least this is my message to all the saddest interviewers. So the whole purpose of taking interviews to clear a candidate. It is not to show the interviewer brilliance, correct? So there is a lot of place where a guy can show his brilliance, and interview is not that place. Not to prove you are brilliant than the candidate who has come. Correct. The whole purpose is to clear an interview, and always I personally go to every interview like the you said to make it an S. But it so happens sometimes we cannot do it because it's finally we're not running a charity where they have to meet certain skills for every role, correct? So
True.
basically communication, like you said, along with the technical skills, it becomes moderate on that day. If they have a very good communication skill, it should favor. Like last time also I was mentioning, so another skill my manager has taught me was, if it goes moderate, just think like, will you work with the candidate? Like, if given a scenario, like probably if the person is good and his moderate skill sets, you feel there's a chance of growth, then probably you can say yes. Just another way, probably after the communication, this also could be another technique. Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. You're
Yeah,
absolutely right, right? So it's like if you are happy
yeah,
and you're willing to work with somebody,
exactly,
there is a lot of technical things can be very easily taught. But if
exactly.
you feel like you cannot communicate with a person and you probably don't feel like it's going to be good for the team or good for you to sit and work with,
Yes.
everything else kind of becomes secondary.
True, true, true. Because there are times when even the best guy who is a technical skills, because of attitude we reject. Because finally, like you said, it is the team which works together. We don't need really brilliant people if we have good, but first we need a good people in the team. Correct? The good people can be molded to make him brilliant people, but the otherwise not. People with a lot of attitude who
Absolutely.
cannot gel with people, they become toxic in the team in the long run. Correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, yes. So let's go to the next question, Srujan. Okay. So now again, this is again a lot of youngsters who have this question in mind. They're just starting in the industry, and now there are a lot of frameworks in the UI. just the plain vanilla JavaScript, the React.js, Vue.js, AngularJS, maybe a lot more can come in the days. So what should be their strategy if they want to become front-end developer? Which tech to choose?
Okay. So first thing you should do is you should choose the JavaScript and
Yeah,
understand the exact basics of JavaScript.
yeah,
And if you lay a really strong fundamentals underneath,
yeah,
whatever pillar you grow, let
yeah,
it be React, let it be Angular, let it be Vue, let it be any other fancy framework that
yeah,
that comes tomorrow,
yeah.
it's going to become really really easy. I've
Yes,
myself worked with React Native, Angular, Vue for
yeah,
multiple set of years,
yeah.
and it's become easy only and only after I learned the fundamentals of JavaScript.
Correct.
That's really really important, and I see a lot of people miss out on fundamentals and they straight jump into React and
Yeah,
they see the React documentation and start creating something. It's
exactly.
very important to understand JavaScript first,
Yeah.
and then you would have the
Yeah.
entire complete freedom to choose any framework you want to.
Definitely, definitely. Because JavaScript is not like 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. It is not that very straightforward language, correct? It has its own intricacies. You need time. It was almost 2.5 years. I did not know how hosting actually works. If hosting really there in JavaScript, how it is interpreted. Like unless you ask lot of why in yourself, probably you wouldn't learn a language like JavaScript. C++ on the other hand, quite straightforward. Like there 1 plus 1 is always 2. These kind of exceptions are less, correct? So probably learn, like to summarize your answer, learn JavaScript very well. Then probably lot of frameworks can come in the future to overcome the disadvantage of one framework. So you'll be able to easily able to accommodate into those, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes. So this is also another I'm picking from our last phone conversations. So I was very curious to know this. So whenever interview goes, all the time the interviewer will ask certain question like, do you have any questions for me? And there are a lot of interviews where I have favored the candidate after they ask last question to me, like where I see somehow a lot of interest in them to join the company or in the tech, etc. Though the interview has gone moderate because of such questions, I have selected them. So I wanted to know what are your last questions to interviewer, Srijan?
So I always ask this one question. Like I
Yeah,
would ask a few bunch of questions regarding the
yeah,
team,
yeah,
regarding the opening, all that stuff. But this one question I massively love asking, which is like, if you could change two things about the company,
yeah,
what would those two things be,
yeah,
right? And there's a lot of different ways I ask this question. I would
yeah,
ask, like, let's say if I give you a genie
yeah.
and the genie grants you that I can change two things about your company, or I
Correct.
would say if you're opening a startup
Yeah.
and it's exactly the same startup as the company you're working for, but you get to remove two things. So it's kind of
Yes.
like the idea is the same, and
Yeah.
it's just a fancy way of saying ki, like what are the two things you don't like about this company. So you can't
Yes.
really straightforwardly ask that,
Exactly.
but you have to like play around with the words
Yeah.
and then make them feel super comfortable,
Yeah.
and that's where I've gotten really really interesting responses. So if
Yeah.
I give you an example of the
Yeah.
most interesting response I got is from, I think, a director at Apple.
Yeah.
Told me that obviously we all know Apple is super super secretive about
Yeah.
what they do and
Yeah.
what products they launch, and that's not only to the customers and their consumers, it's also internally they are extremely secretive, being
Yes.
so secretive that it's a problem that teams don't communicate that well to each other. Teams are secretive but within different teams, so you might be working on a problem that
Yeah.
another team might have already solved and you would never know.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
that is one of the problems at Apple.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
was super interesting to know that it's to reach that level of secrecy,
Yes.
you also kind of have the double-edged sword of teams being
Exactly.
secretive to each other,
Exactly.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, this really helps me understand that what's the true pain point
True.
that somebody is holding with the team, and then
Yes.
asking that in every interview, you kind of get a picture of
Exactly.
what's the biggest pain points that people are facing here in the company. Is that something I want? Is
Yeah.
that something I can live with, or
Yes.
is that not something I want, and
Great.
maybe this is not the right fit for me?
Exactly. Great. This is maybe it would help a lot of people because even in the best of the best company, teams may not be good. Like you mentioned, team
Right.
might be burning with themselves. They are working hard, or manager is not so good. They may not tell all this in that last two questions which you asked, but definitely you may get some insights. Probably what is happening in the team. correct? So this would help you to make a better decisions. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
sure, Sujan. So I guess I'm done with my interview, Sujan. These are all the questions that I have. At least, definitely, I'm sure watching this video will enlighten a lot of candidates towards the interview preparation, because many good developers I have seen who don't have proper way towards the interview preparation. A best developer in current role cannot clear interview for current role. That is that is the irony.
Absolutely.
Irony of
Absolutely.
this role. But definitely, maybe watching your video or your insights will definitely help my viewers. So, we're the closing note, Sujan. Would like to say any last words?
So I would say you for the point of interview, you really need to understand exactly as you said. The whole game of interview is very, very different from the game of
Definitely.
being a developer. So
Correct.
you need to really understand it, that if you're a really good developer, you're you have to also, you're a really good developer because you practice it day in
Exactly.
and day out. Similarly, if you fail an interview, don't take it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's just that you're lacking practice, and
Exactly.
then you learn from that failures, and then you practice again, and then you'd start clearing a lot
Exactly.
more.
Sure. Sure. Thank you, Sujan, for all your time.
Thank
Nice meeting you. Yeah. Thank you.
thank you so much, man. It
Thank you.
was lovely
I
talking to you.
really enjoyed talking to Srijan. Such an amazing personality, like I mentioned in the introduction. He has a viewpoint on a lot of aspects and a genuine viewpoints on a lot of aspects. Especially what are the questions that you ask at the end of the interview, or how people, whenever the interview goes moderate, what should be your strategy to make sure it is in favor of you, and how much DSA to prepare. A most common question. He has a proper stand on all of the most common question that front end developer has, and I think it will definitely help a lot of aspects. I also learned a lot from the interview, and I believe you might have also got a lot of values from this particular interview. So if you like the content, please like the content on my YouTube channel, and Surgeon's LinkedIn profile will be there in the description section. Please go ahead and follow him, and if you whatever you felt, feel free to add that in the comment section. And if something is important, even Surgeon will reply, and I'll also reply to your comments. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you next video.